The following opinion documentary explores the Baxter family car fire tragedy. It considers what happened based on the information we know and asks the question, can a father be backed in to killing his children? You should note that I not only place myself in the father's shoes, but also use empathy to speculate as to what he was thinking. You will be provided information used, but the commentary is all guesswork and should be treated as fictional, not factual. Such commentary is necessary to give viewers an understanding of what Rowan Baxter might have been thinking. Therefore, this commentary is often different to the actual view of the author. Please be warned, this may be horrific and emotional content for some viewers. Episode 1, What Happened and the Clue. You're about to embark on a journey which you could never imagine happening in real life. This opinion documentary is about a father, Rowan Baxter, who killed his wife and 3 children in a car fire. It was worldwide news, and because he was painted as an evil man who controlled via manipulation rather than physical violence, it became the perfect example of the need for coercive control laws throughout the world. Usually knowing the ending gives away the story, but that's not the case here. I will explain the whole story, and you better get ready to experience twists, turns, and surprises which will leave you wanting to know more. I ask the question, why did the father do this? The Baxter family tragedy obtained unilateral support from the media, police, politicians, lawyers, and the public as being an unmistakable case of domestic violence against a woman. They will be horrified by what an unbiased examination will uncover. This opinion was created because the only way to save lives like those of these 5 beautiful people is by looking for the truth. I will investigate whether everyone got it wrong, completely wrong, and examine if this iconic showpiece for women in DV relationships was actually the opposite, a case for a father subject to coercive control. I will investigate the potential of the father being controlled and ultimately push so far that he believed he was backed into killing his children. What you're about to watch will help solve violence by delivering a thrilling rollercoaster ride with all the ingredients to entertain anyone. It will grab you in ways that you never imagined, because this is real. The following report will give you an overview of what happened.
The scene of an apparent murder-suicide in Australia. Local media reports that ex-rugby player Rowan Baxter killed himself after allegedly dousing his family with petrol, then setting them alight in their car in Brisbane on Wednesday. Police say Baxter died from a self-inflicted stab wound on the footpath near the car, where his 3 children died inside.
All I saw was some flames, and then the vehicle rolled across the road and came to a stop over there. The vehicle was engulfed in flames and the lady was screaming.
Baxter's estranged wife Hannah managed to escape and was taken by ambulance to hospital suffering serious burns. She died overnight.
So what happened? On a lovely sunny day like any other, news reports came flooding over the airwaves like this one.
Breaking news in Brisbane, 3 people have died in a car fire. Tragically, we can confirm children are among them. At this stage, the situation is still unfolding as we go to air, but police are saying the car was allegedly set alight deliberately. A major incident has been declared with the scene in Camp Hill locked down. Police have encircled the scene and firefighters have worked to put the flames out. We'll bring you any new details as they come in.
On a beautiful morning, in the middle of a Brisbane street, a man sets fire to a car with his children inside. He then stabs himself, and a woman who is suspected to be his wife is rushed to hospital with terrible burns. How could this have happened? In the following days, we learn more.
It's a crime scene that even police are struggling to comprehend. 3 children killed in a burning car set alight by their father, who was in the middle of a marriage breakdown. The 3, 4 and 6-year-olds were trapped in the burning SUV. Their mother escaped, but she has life-threatening burns. The father, a former NRL player, died alongside his children as horrified neighbours risked their lives trying to save them all.
Beneath a bright tarp, the darkest of crimes.
I've seen some horrific scenes. This is up there with some of the best of them. It's a terrible scene.
A family car, torched, screams shattering a peaceful Brisbane suburb.
Just saw the vehicle in flames. It was just horrible. And the explosions. I can confirm that we have 3 deceased children under the age of 10 in the vehicle.
Leanna, Elia and Trey died just 200 metres from their grandma's house with their dad, former Warriors NRL player Rowan Baxter. It's believed he stabbed himself and then set them all alight. Their mother, Hannah, left with life-threatening burns. At the scene, neighbours say she leapt from the burning car screaming, "He's poured petrol on me."
Awful situation. Kind neighbours who went to her aid. Someone was hosing her with a fountain effect.
One hero injured, desperately trying to save them.
One gentleman had some facial burning. I think he tried his best to get to the car.
On Rowan Baxter's Facebook page, a final post 6 days ago. Trey, love you to the moon and back. But a friend's comment revealed trouble. Chin up, brother. Everything will work out. Just hang in there, my bro. A lot of people care about you and the situation you're facing. Family videos showed laughter. But the couple, who owned a local gym, reportedly split 3 months ago. Hannah and the kids moved out. Tonight, as police piece it all together, there is overwhelming grief, but also a call to end the violence.
I'm a mum myself. I've been through domestic violence myself, and it's not okay. It's not okay.
Chris Reason, 7 News.
When I heard what happened, I knew immediately from the typical signs that this was most likely another father who had been boxed into doing what he did. I could do nothing else but feel sad for all involved. Those innocent children, the parents who had allowed their separation to come to the point where this happens. I knew the signs and I knew what could help stop it. And I have always wanted to save lives and prevent abuse. These were another 5 lives I could have saved. But unfortunately, it is always the innocent female agenda has grown so strong, there was nothing I could do. But then sometime after, I came across a critical piece of information that changed everything. Due to an innocent girl who died in that car fire that day, I knew I could create the seed of change that is needed to save people's lives. I needed to reach the masses. Unfortunately, domestic violence is seen as the most boring subject for our entertainment-seeking youth. I had to represent the innocent children, the mothers who unknowingly make things worse, and the fathers who are outcast by their families and society. I needed to get your interest early in life. My solution is to take people on an unbelievable, exciting journey which has the impact on them because this is a real story, something that cannot be twisted by those with their own agendas. Let's prove that one person can change the world. I'm going to lure you in with your first investigative challenge. I'm going to give you a reason to want to know what really happened. I will plant that seed of doubt in your head and you will have to go on. Get ready for your first twist of many, as here it comes. After what happened, it was inevitable that the women's groups would speak out with rage at how men can get away with domestic violence, and this is just another example of an innocent woman's life being taken by an evil man. These men who control women need to be stopped with stronger laws and protections for women. There were some good friends of Rowan Baxter who said he was a great dad and had his children ripped away from him. They were quickly cast away as victim blaming. The mother was clearly the innocent victim. He was your typical man, inherently violent and in the end a murderous bastard. But along came a twist. The police investigating officer held a press conference and said this.
Is murder-suicide the only line of inquiry currently?
No, absolutely not. Our job as investigators is to keep a completely open mind. We need to look at every piece of information and to put it bluntly, there are probably people out there in the community that are deciding which side, so to speak, to take in this investigation. Is this an issue of a woman suffering significant domestic violence and her and her children perishing at the hands of the husband, or is this an instance of a husband being driven too far by issues that he's suffered by certain circumstances into committing acts of this form? Because of that, that's why I want people to come and speak to us. If we are going to build that complete picture, keep an open mind as to what's occurred, then we need to speak to everyone and compile that complete picture with information from the public.
Right now, you might be thinking, is this guy a complete idiot? To say that they would approach this with an open mind? How dare he not see this was just another case of a woman dying at the hands of a violent man? The women's groups were going to eat him up and spit him out. He was illustrating for everyone how the police have no idea it's always the innocent women that suffer at the hands of violent men. It was almost like he said this on purpose. He wasn't going to immediately assume the mother was completely innocent. But the masses united and quickly condemned the investigator for saying such callous remarks. Social media and the press went wild, calling for the police officer's job. How dare he even contemplate considering if the father who did this terrible thing could actually be the victim? A beautiful woman could never hurt a strong, tough, feelingless man. There is no excuse for violence, no excuse for what this monster Rowan Baxter did. And it appeared this officer was about to consider if there was more to the story that triggered these terrible events. The DV Brigade was of the opinion this pathetic, incompetent investigator couldn't see it was black and white. No father could justify killing his own children. He was just another violent monster taking out his final act of control over his wife. In damage control, the Queensland Police Commissioner comes out and says this.
Just want to make some comments about what's occurred in the last 24 hours. And before I start, I want to sincerely apologise for the comments that were made. It was an officer trying to explain a process and then had a little bit too much to say about that. I apologise from the QPS to the victims or anyone that may have been offended and hurt by this. I phoned the officer this morning, and as you can appreciate, he is distraught and gutted because of the way he explained it and then construed. He tried to explain it further in his 13-minute interview. As I was suggesting and asking him that he needed to step aside, he actually volunteered and said for the integrity and the confidence of not only this investigation, but us in policing, he needed to. And I totally agreed with that. For anyone that might know Inspector Mark Thompson, he's an extraordinarily committed, experienced and brilliant investigator. And he, like the rest of us, believe that domestic violence is nothing but a scourge on society. And we attend some 100,000 occurrences a year. And the Queensland Police Service is so committed to particularly looking after victims families and children that are affected by domestic violence. And I was looking at statistics just yesterday. Over 260 occurrences a day. And in some of my shifts, that's all my officers do, is go from one occurrence to the other. So a sincere apology for any hurt we may have caused. The officer is distressed, and he is an exceptionally good police officer. Thank you. I will take questions.
The Queensland Police Commissioner was going to take him off the case, but to save her face, he resigned. The Police Commissioner did not back her own police officer's comments. Mark Thompson was the victim who had to be sacrificed to please the angry mob. But I was not part of that mob because I knew Mark was not a dumb man. I knew this experienced investigator was not going to hide information to be politically correct to please the masses. We were only talking a matter of a day after it happened. Remember, I saw the signs of a father being boxed into doing this almost immediately. So my immediate reaction to hearing what he said was, this guy knows something, which throws questions over what happened, which cannot be ignored. In the initial investigation stage, Mark Thompson must have come across something to force him to make such comments in a public forum. At the time, it was a mystery to me as to what it could be, but I had my money on Mark Thompson being a fine investigator who paid the price from the Commissioner for doing his job. I knew whatever it was, it had to be something interesting. I needed information to work out if I was right or wrong about what I thought happened. But you can't get it from the police. Then, everyone who knew Hannah suddenly jumped into the spotlight to get their 15 minutes of fame. They were competing with their information to get the public's attention. The first major coverage was from Hannah's family doing an exclusive interview for the TV show A Current Affair. Exclusive usually means they've sold the story, so that immediately got me wondering. When I watched it, I saw so many things that didn't fit together, and I couldn't believe nobody saw what I did. From then on, this event quickly became the perfect case for coercive control laws to protect women. It has been used as a tool for women to get more power, more funding, and more laws in place. A platform for politicians to use it as a case for them supporting innocent women who are stuck in situations of domestic violence from men. This case became known throughout the world. I could not believe that not one so-called expert could see what really went on. Fathers were now being ripped from their children on the mere desire of the mothers to hurt the father. But I have the first of so many surprises for you. Thanks to the inquest into what happened, I believe I found that key piece of evidence which motivated the investigator to say those comments that cost him so much. There was police body cam footage obtained from the first responding police officers at the scene. I will present it to you now, and your challenge is to see if you can pick out that crucial information which could have cast doubt over this case in the investigator's mind. This is what was said in the police body cam recording. I will be focusing on Hannah's comments in the discussion and shall skip bits which are not essential, but everything is available online so you can read the complete record if you want. Police: okay. Hannah: my ex-husband, he got in the interference from the police radio. Police: what's your ex-husband's name? Hannah: Rowan Baxter. Police: Rowan Baxter? Hannah: there's a protection order against him. Police: okay. Hannah: we got in the car to go to school and he jumped in the front seat with me and had a jerry can. Radio interference. Hannah: and then I saw this gentleman. Police: what's Rowan's middle name? Hannah. Charles. Police. So Rowan jumped in the car and lit the car on fire? Radio interference. Hannah. With a jerry can. And then I saw this gentleman locking the car and asked him to call the police. Please. Radio interference. Hannah. And then he poured petrol everywhere and just lit the car. Police. Okay, what's your... Hannah. And my 3 kids? Police. What's your surname? Hannah. In the computer it's under Clarke. Clarke. Police. And your first name? Hannah. Hannah. Police. And your middle name, Hannah? Hannah. Ashley. Police. Lee. Hannah. Ashley. Police. What did you say your middle name was, Ashley? Sorry. Hannah. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Police. No. You're doing amazing, actually. Hannah, what did you say your middle name was? Police. He's on the ground over the other side there, so... Police. So he's on... That's the victim? The guy that's on the ground? Police. Police. Okay. Is that confirmed him? I'm going to skip the talk about getting witness statements, etc. Police. Hannah, can you go through in as much detail? I know it's very hard. Just tell me from the very start again. Hannah. Yeah. We jumped in the car to go to school. Police. Where did you jump in the car at? Hannah provides the address. Up the road. Police. Yeah. And then what happened? Hannah. And then he jumped in the front seat and I started to scream. Police. Yeah. Hannah. And then... Police. Yeah. Hannah. He just told me to drive. Police. Okay. Hannah. He said all I wanted to do was to see my children. Police. Yeah. Hannah. And I just said, no, get out. And he said, you need to drive. And he had a jerry can. Police. Yeah. Hannah. In his hand. Police. Yeah. Hannah. He just told me to drive, so I started driving. And then I saw this gentleman washing his car and I pulled over and said, please call the police. Please call the police. And then he just... Police. Sorry. No, go, yep. Hannah. Poured petrol everywhere and lit the car alight. Police. Okay. Whereabouts? How far did you drive to get here? Hannah. Like it's just up the road. Sorry. Police. No, you're right. You keep going. Hannah. We've got a protection order. Police. And when was the last time you saw him? Hannah. He FaceTimed the kids last night, but the last time I saw him in person, maybe a week ago? Police. Okay. And has he done anything threatening previously? Hannah. Yeah, no, not to me, no. Police. No. Has he hurt you previously? Hannah. He tried to break my wrist 2 weeks ago. Police. Okay. Did the police know about that? Hannah. Yes. The police officer goes to give another police officer the rundown. Police. When she's hopped in the car, he's jumped in the passenger's seat. She started screaming. He's gone, drive. I just want to see the kids. She's driven not too far to here. I don't know where it actually is, but she's pulled up, saw someone out front with a hose. I'll end it there as the rest is more police talking. Remember, the full version is available on the internet. So, were you able to pick out the most obvious thing said that throws questions about why Rowan did this? Here's a hint. Rowan said to Hannah, all I wanted to do was to see my children. And Hannah said, no, get out. And he said, you need to drive. And he had a jerry can. Can you see it now? The key statement is, all I wanted to do was see my children. This is coming from a man who is supposed to be getting his revenge on his wife. 2 years on, with the police investigations and inquest, all come to the conclusion this was a controlling, violent man who was taking out his final act of power over Hannah by killing them all. But the investigator would have applied logic to the situation. It makes no sense at all to say something like that. If you are about to get your revenge, and this is the last act of control over Hannah. If it was revenge, I could understand Rowan saying something like, I told you if you left me, I would kill you. Or, now you are going to suffer for what you did to me. Or, I said you were mine. I am going to make sure no one else will have you. Anything with the underlying sentiment of revenge, violence, or an act of control would make some sense. But for Rowan to say all I wanted to do was to see my children does not fit in any way with the revenge theory. Second, he's about to kill the children, which are the ones he wanted to see. You don't kill the ones you love. There had to be more to the story. I knew at the time, without any of this information, what probably happened. But Inspector Mark Thompson would have been piecing the puzzle together logically. The body cam footage would have been quickly looked at. He would have picked up that a father getting into a car with petrol in a jerry can and prepared to act would not say, all I wanted to do was see my children, and yet be prepared to kill them. It doesn't fit with revenge. I'll cover a few more smaller, subtle points, which will give you some insight that this opinion is going to have so many twists and some real basis for being true. I think that is the key statement, but there are many more smaller ones that raise questions. For example, you may have noticed Hannah responded after Rowan jumped in the car and said that all he wanted to do was to see my children by saying, no, get out, get out. Rowan had just jumped in the car and was not threatening her at that time. This means Hannah's immediate reaction was to stick to the decision that Rowan was not going to be allowed to see the kids, saying, no, get out, get out. One point is almost immediately Hannah says to the police that she has a protection order against him. It almost feels like it is a key weapon for her, and we will take a look into that. Another point is that Hannah says later, we've got a protection order. Hannah does not say, I've got a protection order. Rather, it is, we've got a protection order. We've indicates plural, in other words, Hannah and another person or persons. It sounds like a team effort. We've got a protection order. We will see how that fits as our investigation goes on. The next one is a statement Hannah makes which may mean little now, but will mean a lot more as you discover what happened. It is when the policeman says to Hannah, okay, and has he done anything threatening previously? And Hannah says, yeah, not to me, no. You will see how so many experts and those involved will talk about threatening behaviour towards Hannah and the children, if Hannah did not conform to his wishes. But here she states clearly, yeah, not to me, no. Almost like she was considering her response when she says yeah, and then says, not to me, no. I will provide you one more to get you thinking as you watch the story develop. When the police officer was asking Hannah for Hannah's second name, the officer says, what did you say your middle name was? Ashley, sorry. And Hannah says, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This response could be taken in many different contexts. Right now, most of you will see nothing but a normal conversation, as expected. But as you go through the story and arrive back at this point, you may find you see it could have a completely different meaning to what you initially assumed. Let's return to what the detective might be thinking. Yes, I have detailed a few minor things which the investigator would not have noticed so early in the case. But I believe Rowan's saying, all I wanted to do was see my children, is a key statement by itself. Enough for any investigator to question. Why would he have said that? This is a father who just wanted to see his kids. So the father who loves his kids has now done this? Rowan said nothing indicating revenge. It makes no sense. Or does it make a lot of sense? I am going to show you how it may all fit into place, and these comments make sense. It's his duty to try and answer the question of what went on. He needs any evidence he can get his hands on, those knowing the mother, the father, the kids, the family, at work, anywhere. The twist is that he sees on social media the opinions have gone wild. The overwhelming majority are the feminists, DV flag waving, those with the men are abusive agenda, with everyone demonising Rowan along with anyone who says he was a good father. But on the other side are some people who knew Rowan and the family and said Hannah had taken the kids from Rowan and she caused this to happen. The investigator knows if those promoting the women are always innocent agenda continue to troll and demonise anyone who speaks out, they will go into hiding for fear of being ostracised. And his evidence to reveal the truth will be lost forever. So he needs them to come forward desperately. Knowing what he does, or what we know, you would realise it is absolutely necessary to head off this horde of innocent victim female brigade, to enable the truth to come forth. He considers his options and sees he needs to restore some balance to the community. He also needs to give courage to those on Rowan's side to step forward and provide their evidence. He needs them to know the police will listen to them impartially, and no matter what their opinion is, they will be treated with respect. So he formulates a plan. All he has to do is stick to the basics. Have a press conference to stop the bullying on both sides. The dominant side is the women's brigade, but all he needs to achieve is some balance. Show that the police are impartial and open-minded. This will relieve the pressure on the witnesses and allow them to come forward. Enforce strongly how it is necessary for the police to examine all evidence before making any decision. Clearly make the case of destroying the scourge of domestic violence, but explain how this can only be done by knowing the facts. He thinks, this should be supported by the female DV brigade. Yes, they will want to get to the truth. That will only reinforce their case, if this is true. The plan seems foolproof. The police are unbiased and caring to all. But he's no politician. He's an investigator who deals with facts and logic. That's about to be his downfall. He didn't factor in that politicians and the majority rules apply in this crazy world. Little does he know, he is going to dig a hole so deep for himself it will become the grave for his career. The good news is, I've got his back. We will let the truth come out. Then people can decide for themselves. I'm now going to go through Mark's police conference, but this time I will provide some commentary. My commentary will assume Mark has in his mind that he needs evidence from both sides. That way, you can decide if you think he knew something more. I am also going to look at the funny side. We have all experienced times where we think we have a good plan and it all falls apart. All we can do sometimes is look back and have a laugh. Remember, Mark Thompson is a smart person. He strives to do a good job. He wants the world to be a fair place for all. And most importantly, he wants to stop this happening, just like me. By learning from our mistakes, we can make a better future.
All right, everyone, look, thanks very much for your time. My name is Mark Thompson. I'm a Detective Inspector with the Queensland Police, currently working in the South Brisbane District with the South Brisbane District Criminal Investigation Branch.
I reckon he's thinking, I have to be sensitive, but also try to be firm enough to calm those brutal comments circulating on social media.
I've invited you here today to discuss the tragic series of events that led to the death of 5 people yesterday in Camp Hill. As you're aware, at about 8:30 yesterday morning, police and emergency services were called to a vehicle fire which led to the deaths of those 5 people. I can confirm that Hannah Clark, 31 years of age, of Camp Hill, and her children, Alia Baxter, Liana Baxter and Trey Baxter, all perished as a result of that fire. I can also confirm that Rowan Baxter, Hannah's estranged husband, also died from injuries sustained during that fire.
Now he's trying to gain empathy from people because it's his job to investigate properly.
Now, our investigations have shown us quite clearly that there is a palpable sense of grief and mourning amongst the community. And it's also shown us at this point in time that there's a rising sense of anger that in this day and age, the scourge of domestic and family violence still can lead to the death of 5 people. With that said, we have reviewed some of the social media and public commentary that we've seen come from the community in relation to this. And there is clearly indications in some of that social media and some of that public comment of people who may be aware of the Clark and Baxter family and are making comment in relation to them.
Now he's making a good job of appealing for people to come forward and provide evidence.
Now, our job is to build a complete and clear picture for the coroner as to what happened yesterday, what led to the events of yesterday, and the best way of us being able to do that is to understand the family dynamics and understand the history of that family. So that leads me to be here today to put another call out to the public, and I'd even go so far as to call it an impassioned call to the public that if you have any knowledge of the Baxter-Clark family, that you come forward and speak to police. I'd ask anyone out there that is aware of someone that they know, any of their associates that has mentioned this or knows something about it, to encourage their friends, encourage their associates to come forward and speak to police. As always, that can be done by contacting Crime Stoppers. It can also be done by contacting your local police station or Police Link.
Watch him say how there are things that cannot be discussed. That would include the evidence which is driving him to question what really went on here.
As I mentioned, it's our job at the moment to build a complete picture for the coroner, and we do that by compiling a brief of evidence for their consideration, and therefore this investigation is under the direction of the state coroner, and so therefore there are some things that I will not be able to discuss, but I am happy to take questions.
Can you confirm if it's being treated as a murder-suicide?
The investigation is trying to establish the events of what happened. At this point in time, information that's at hand has led us to believe that the Baxter children and Hannah Clark were killed, and I don't believe at this stage there is any suspicious circumstances around the death of Rowan Baxter.
Now he takes the opportunity to explain that they are going to have an open mind. But this is going to backfire big time because women's DV groups want this to be a black and white case of a violent man, so there is no need for fairness.
Is murder-suicide the only line of inquiry currently?
No, absolutely not. Our job as investigators is to keep a completely open mind. We need to look at every piece of information.
Mark is so smart. He knows there are at least 2 options open to investigation. But the public are going to kick him for even contemplating the possibility of a man being backed into doing what he did.
And to put it bluntly, there are probably people out there in the community that are deciding which side, so to speak, to take in this investigation. Is this an issue of a woman suffering significant domestic violence and her children perishing at the hands of the husband, or is this an instance of a husband being driven too far by issues that he's suffered by certain circumstances into committing acts of this form? Because of that, that's why I want people to come and speak to us. If we are going to build that complete picture, keep an open mind as to what's occurred, then we need to speak to everyone and compile that complete picture with information from the public.
And I'll say that even 2 years later and after a full inquest into what happened, they have chosen to ignore Rowan Baxter's words.
Police aware of previous domestic violence incidents regarding the public?
Look, I can confirm that Queensland Police have engaged with both Hannah and her estranged husband in relation to domestic violence issues. We have also engaged with both of the parties in referring them to support services. When it comes to Hannah, we have dealt with her on a number of occasions. We have actively worked with the Brisbane Domestic Violence Centre in supporting Hannah throughout her family issues, and we've also referred Rowan Baxter to support services as well.
Mark is so good. He's already on top of things which have gone on in the past. The next question is about the Boxing Day incident. This is an incident where Rowan took one of the girls, and Hannah's parents and friends always call it a kidnapping, but it was not, which shall be covered in detail later on. Mark knows this is not a kidnapping and discloses his position, but the public won't like it. They're looking for drama. The DV Brigade want it to be seen as a kidnapping and an evil man taking the child away from the mother.
Can you confirm whether there was a kidnapping involved with one of the children on Boxing Day last year and the child being taken interstate and police had to get them back?
Okay. We are aware of the movement of the children over the last couple of months. I cannot say that we are investigating a kidnapping. The dynamics of a family that are broken and estranged are particularly poignant to this investigation, I guess, and very hard to decipher without us being able to put some sort of clarification around what's happened. Unfortunately, some of the people that were involved in that are no longer with us, and we're not able to speak to them. So once again, the community need to come to us and tell us what they know.
Remember, even in the inquest into what happened, they have twisted the Boxing Day incident into one of Rowan taking his own daughter as a way of controlling Hannah. You will see this is not the case.
Were there any DVOs or temporary protection orders taken out by either of the couple?
Yes, I can say that domestic and family violence paperwork and applications were put to court.
And were they granted?
Yes.
When was that?
Look, I can't go into timeframes. I mean, there have been a number of engagements of police with both Rowan and Hannah, and to start trying to decipher through the exact details of that would probably end in some sort of sense of confusion and the wrong message being relayed to the public.
And do police have a better picture of how Mr. Baxter came into contact with his family yesterday?
Look, we do. We believe that we are able to show the movements of both Mr. Baxter and Hannah Clark and her children yesterday. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm building a complete picture for the coroner. The coroner can make considerations around what we present to him, so it would be incorrect for me to go any further with that at this point in time.
So you said that Hannah and her children perished as a result of the fire.
Yes.
How did Mr. Baxter die?
That's yet to be confirmed. We're waiting on post-mortem examinations. However, we believe at this point in time he succumbed to injuries from the fire and a self-inflicted injury as well, but once again that is yet to be confirmed.
So self-inflicted as in he's hurt himself in a suicide act? Or?
Look, that's all I'm prepared to say at the moment. So.
He then decisively backs the point that people should be able to live their lives free of violence.
You mentioned that you're still looking into the motives and what may have caused this from happening, but is there any excuse for something like this occurring?
Look, I used the words scourge of family and domestic violence earlier in my opening address, and I absolutely support that way of looking at it. There is no excuse for perpetration of violence in our community. There is certainly no excuse for perpetration of violence amongst families in behind closed doors. Both sides of the family, the father, the mother, the husband, the wife, the children, all deserve to be able to go about their life without being in fear of their spouse or their parent of either side. They also have the right to go about their life without the fear of controlling behaviours and other acts that are considered domestic and family violence. This is something that the government and certainly the Queensland Police are committed to eradicating in our community. It's something that we're working extremely hard with support agencies and the government to achieve. And the last link in that chain, that the last group that we need to continue to get on board with us is the community themselves. If you know something, you must speak up. If you're a victim, come forward, speak to police, seek assistance. I understand that there are a myriad of challenges around that, and I understand that there are myriad reasons why victims do not come forward. And my understanding and sympathies are with those people. But I can tell you now that we are committed to assisting people. We are committed to fighting the fight on eradicating domestic and family violence.
Watch him stick to his target. He wants to put this together to understand it.
Is there any suggestion that someone might have helped Rowan Baxter?
Oh, sorry, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry, is there any suggestion that someone might have helped Rowan Baxter prepare for this attack, or the police believe he just acted on his own?
Look, I can't go into that depth of the investigation at this point in time, but we are happy at this point in time that we are able to understand the movements of both Rowan and Hannah and her children and their children. And we will continue to work to try and uncover information in relation to the family dynamics and the history of their interaction.
He's now asked about why he thought it could be a case of Rowan being backed into doing what he did. He keeps a level head and gives nothing away. It is just one of many options. He's thinking people aren't idiots. They already know how investigators have to be unbiased. He restates that he is taking the standard unbiased approach like all cases, but this does not save him. The DV Brigade supporting more power for women don't want an unbiased approach. The police commissioner could have stood by him and the fact he confirmed this was standard procedure, but the commissioner did not. She wanted him to resign.
You suggested that you were looking at whether he's been driven too far to have done this. What do you mean by that? Is there something that you're looking at recently that's occurred between them that may have sparked?
Absolutely not. I'm not leaning towards that at all. What I was trying to illustrate by my comments were that...
You will see how determined Mark is to get to the truth. Although the poor guy doesn't realise he's going to get screwed over for his comments. He reinforces the importance of coming forward as it could help reform the system. He's a good and thorough investigator. You'll see what ended up happening without him on the case and the reforms which came from it. To get to the truth, they needed him desperately. I have no doubt that he would have come out with an unbiased and totally different conclusion.
You do see, both in public commentary and in general responses from the community, that people will make those allegations. Maybe they are scorned members of the community themselves that have had dealings with domestic violence in the past, and that's the sort of things that they say in response to an incident like this. I am certainly not saying that the Queensland Police Service are taking any view in relation to that at all. We are not doing that. We are keeping an open mind and doing an open investigation, which is exactly what we are to do, and we are under the direction from the State Coroner to do that. What I was trying to illustrate is that if there are people out there making the comments such as what I've just described, then please come forward and substantiate those claims. Help us with the information we need to build that picture for the coroner. Coronial issues like this have the ability to drive reform amongst issues like domestic and family violence. So it is extremely critical that people come forward.
Mark is about to express very eloquently how they want to understand what went on in this situation and how the police are always looking to adjust their approach based on what they discover. So he gave them reasoning for an unbiased approach. Yet the media hide that. You will see later how without Mark Thompson as the investigator, the police have only made things worse by trying to please the women are always the innocent victim brigade.
What can you do, or what can police do to eradicate this?
We continue to work with partner agencies. We continue to look to research that suggests the drivers behind domestic and family violence, and we continue to try and work with the victims and the perpetrators of domestic and family violence to understand what those drivers are and adjust our approaches where necessary and our policies towards that. Now, we are very comfortable and from what I'm investigating, that we are working extremely hard and in the right direction to achieve those goals. But every situation is unique and it needs to be approached that way.
Mark then talks about an increase in calls to domestic violence hotlines. I shall note that the big increase was a 67% increase in calls from men after this. Many of these men were worried about feeling in a similar way. So it is men suffering in silence, and we are about to discover what they have to go through. To illustrate, one of the articles which referenced this information was titled "Helpline Calls from Family Violence Perpetrators Skyrocket Amid Isolation," which enforces how it is okay to assume men are the perpetrators. People have become so brainwashed with women being innocent, they could not contemplate if the increase in calls might be from fathers feeling backed into terrible situations by the mother. It is not as simple as they portray it. If a woman leaves a man and he is still sharing care of the children equally, why would he consider killing the wife and kids? There must be a reason for men to feel this way, which we shall discover.
I had comment made to me by a domestic and family violence support service in the last 24 hours that they see an increase of requests for service after incidents like yesterday's. That just goes to show that there are people out there that are suffering in silence. Those people are suffering in silence until such time as they see incidents like this which spur them to come forward. I understand that. I applaud them for coming forward. My position and the position of my organisation is that we would like them to come forward at the earliest opportunity so that we can assist them. Once again, I understand the myriad of complexities around that and why people can't come forward or don't come forward, but we continue to encourage that to happen.
So there we have it. The police conference where Mark aimed at getting people to come forward with information. He thought he did a great job of conveying to people that the police are there for them. He stood solid and got that message to everyone who knew the Baxters. He needs them to provide what they know. The poor guy doesn't realise after this interview, the DV brigade grabbed the bit about considering if Rowan was backed into doing these terrible acts, and suddenly Detective Mark Thompson has become a female victim-blaming man. The DV brigade scream out about how disgusting his comments are. Politicians back the loudest majority, and with them saying an investigator is victim-blaming innocent women, they join the most vocal. The police commissioner doesn't back her officer. She is going to throw him under the bus to save political face and give the DV keyboard warriors what they want. There would have been no reason Mark Thompson would not have disclosed why he had to do this in his public statement to the Commissioner. But this was evidently not important enough to gain the Commissioner's support. You see how the Commissioner says it in a statement. She essentially chooses to sacrifice Mark to please the public.
I think that once those comments are made, and as you see, there's been scathing, comments about those things that he said. I, as the head of the organisation, and not only I, Mark knows that you've got to be put aside, and basically let the integrity of the investigation continue, and that people have confidence in us. That has a decision that has to be made.
Commissioner, do you understand? Suddenly, he has to resign from the case. The next investigator better toe the politically correct line. The innocent female DV brigade has won. Rowan's supporters and their evidence is lost as they go into hiding from the DV brigade, who understand little about what really goes on in relationships. You will see later how the investigation outcome provided to the inquest appears never to have considered Rowan Baxter's situation with an open mind. All hope of fairness was lost. So after seeing this information, I will ask you the rhetorical question. Do you think Mark Thompson is the investigator who said too much and over-explained it like the Commissioner said? Or do you think he is a smart investigator on the ball and doing what he had to do to get the evidence to investigate properly? I believe Mark's comments were deliberate and crucial to enabling an unbiased investigation by having witnesses come forward. He was not taking a side, did not make a mistake, and was not victim blaming. Unfortunately, he was let down by the police force that is supposed to support officers in doing their sworn duty. But there's a twist. With power and control, feeling superior, wanting fame and to be in the spotlight, those people become arrogant. They drop their guard because they have won, and no one can question them. Hannah's supporters will seek their 15 minutes of fame. DV activists will confirm how this is just another clear case of abuse of a female. Politicians will jump on the bandwagon, throwing money to support women and destroy fathers. Laws will be made to appease the universal rule that it is always the innocent female victim. Sadly, you will discover how these activists have made men subordinates, voiceless and powerless against whatever women choose to do in relationships. But the truth will come out, not due to the investigating detective, the inquest, the police, or anyone else. I will explain what I knew happened by putting the information together which everyone has ignored. I will show you the signs I saw, and you can decide for yourself what is the real story. This is the story investigator Mark Thompson may have discovered if he was allowed to do his job. This series will reveal everything. The truth about what fathers have to endure, how men can be backed in by circumstances, and how terrible things can happen. You will see what power women yield over men and see what a mother can do to a father in a totally different light. You will be blown away when you discover the possibility Rowan left messages to try and stop this happening to other families. I will explain how this all could have easily been prevented and show that because of this case, they have made it much worse for women, children, and men. Remember, this is not anti-women. Quite the opposite. I want to save women from this happening to them. I will show you how it all fits together, and Rowan's saying all I wanted to do was see my children will make sense. This is all to come. Hang on to your hats. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.